Dr. Semir Osmanagić, beautiful historical place in the central Turkey, Anatolia, the capital city of one of the biggest empire of the ancient world, the Hittite kingdom. Before I tell anything about them, let me go to the neighboring big power from that time, ancient Egypt. At the most southern part of the ancient Egypt, what's called today Abu Simbel, there is a beautiful temple according to the Egyptologists. And for the last 140 years, they've been saying that the greatest Egyptian pharaoh called Ramesses II of the 19th pharaonic dynasty built that particular temple. You come to the place, you can see 4 beautiful, enormous statues. 3 of them with the preserved heads, and you can see the temple inside, the chamber, with the beautiful motifs on the wall. Now, on the wall what we have is the story that Ramesses II, 1275 years before Christ, which is about 3,300 years before present, defeated mighty Hittite army. And not only that, but he humiliated them because he, like he said, single-handedly defeated the huge army of the Hittite. And we can see this motif on almost every Egyptian temple. Also, on the biggest statues, like those 3, we can see the cartouche on the arm of those figures. Cartouche, of course, with the name of the Ramesses II. So, today, with all the papyri that remained after his times, the Egyptologists concluded that he was actually the greatest king in Egyptian history, 3,300 years back. They called him also Ramesses the Great or Ramesses the Conqueror. Now, Ramesses II was the son of the pharaoh Seti I. Seti I was really the conqueror, and he established a mighty Egyptian state during the New Kingdom. His son was Ramesses II. As a young prince, after 4 years of his rule, he was engaged in a fight with the Hittites. So now we are coming to the powerful empire, which was located here in the central Turkey. If you go back 3,300 years ago, at that time we had some major powers. We had Persians, we had Babylonians, Assyrians were starting to be established as a major power. We had some communities in what's today Israel, Syria, Philistia or Palestine, and then of course Egypt. At that time, actually, the Hittite kingdom was even bigger than ancient Egyptians. And there was a tension between those 2 powers. The tension was exactly at the border, which is today's Syria and the Lebanon. Now, near the city of Kadesh, according to the historical references, there was a huge fight between 2 empires. The Egyptian king, the son of the god Ra, gathered the army of 20,000 soldiers. That was all his army. However, the Hittite king, and his name was King Muhatali II, gathered the army of 40,000 soldiers. And they were coming close to each other. The Egyptian king, the young Ramesses II, he rushed with his first division. 3 divisions were left behind. He wanted to defeat the Hittites as soon as possible. He captured 2 Bedouins. He talked to them, and he was told that the Hittite army with their king and with a small band, their king was in front. So Ramesses II decided to hurry up and captured the Hittite king. However, those 2 Bedouins were actually 2 Hittite spies. So based on this information, Ramesses II was actually captured by the Hittite army. And then he was forced to sign the treaty in which he's giving the city of Kadesh and the whole province to the Hittite kingdom. He went back to his generals ashamed. He was so upset. He attacked them, saying that they left him, they abandoned him. And then when he came back to Egypt, he ordered his people to show in every Egyptian temple the scenes of his victory over the Hittite. So this is how the fake history started, back with the ancient Egyptians. So today, 3,300 years later, once we see those scenes, how he single-handedly is victorious over the Hittites, we really think that this is what was happening then. Wrong. As a matter of fact, from 1906, the letters of the communication between two kingdoms were discovered, and today they are held in the British Museum. And then we can see clearly that the Hittite king asked his Egyptian counterpart why he was lying that he was victorious over Hittites. But everybody knows that he actually lost the war. And of course, from the other references, we know that Kadesh really remained in the Hittites' hands. Well, the Egyptian king was unsure what to answer. He was talking something about internal problems and the gods and the priesthood, so he did not give clear answer. And today, after so much time, we believe about those untrue information. 2 years later, the Hittite king passed away. Another king came. Now this one was very interesting because 17 years after King Ramesses II lost the battle over Kadesh, there was the first peace treaty that is documented in our history. Even though there were some others during Babylonian times, this one is taken as the first one, and the replica of this peace treaty is today at the building of the United Nations in New York. Now, this was very important because two kings, one was King Ramesses II of Egypt, and the other one was King of Hatuši III of the Hittite land, signed a treaty where they were saying that both kings, the great son of Ra, the king of land of sun god, and the other one, the king of land of the Hittite, they agreed that they will never attack each other, the whole history, and they agreed about the cooperation. And indeed, the Egyptians started sharing their advanced knowledge about the agriculture with their counterpart from Anatolia. On the other hand, Hittites had the best developed metallurgy in this area of the world. So they taught the Egyptians about how to build tools and weaponry. And this is the first case that actually the peace treaty has been respected for the duration of the one side. In this case, the Hittite state. The Hittite states, 75 years later, ended. Why did they end? Because of the enemies from the east, Assyrians, who became very ruthless warriors from the Sea of the People, from the Greek islands. But it is the way to show us that different nations can cooperate and they can exchange the knowledge and skills. And there is a big reason why the replica of this peace treaty is in the building of the United Nations in New York. Now, this place, Hatuši, was huge at the original times. When it comes to the origin of the Hattusha, what is documented is that they started 3,900 years back. And the documents that we have are actually the cuneiform writing that we find here on the clay tablets. Most of them were discovered in the city-state of Kanesh. Now, Kanesh was the trading port which was established by Assyrians. Several trading posts, including one here in Hattusha, were established by Assyrians. 22,000 clay tablets are telling us about the lavish ceremonial place here in Hattusha. Originally, they had the city walls which were 8 kilometers around the city. Huge for the time. They had 5 major gates, and I'm standing by one of the most important ones, the Lion Gate. And there were more than 100 towers, so they could watch around in a case that enemies was approaching. This was a city of wealth. This was a city of trading, international trading between East and West. Those who wanted to trade with the European sections, they had to go through these parts, through central Anatolia. And the Europeans who wanted to trade or conquer Asia, they needed to go through Asia Minor or through those parts in Anatolia. So international trading, culture, art, music, dance. This city was one of the first well-documented cities with developed urbanization. We can see the palaces, the temples, we can see residential areas, we can see villas, and all of them using the stones. When did stones were used first here? Now this wall is very important. The first couple of blocks that I was pointed out, they are polygonal blocks. So they have more than 4 sides, more than 4 corners, 6 or 8. This does not belong to Hittite kingdom, or even the one before them, the Hatti kingdom. It belongs to megalithic civilizations, which is going back most probably 8,000 years. So I would say that the traces of the first urban center here are 8,000 years old, and even though we do not have anything documented, we can see by the construction styles that it was the same style that we can meet in Peru, Easter Island, Mexico, Egypt, Bosnia, Croatia, Montenegro, Turkey, and many other places. One of the biggest mysteries, how did it all started? And we can read it from stones. Today, 3,300 years later, when you go to Egypt, Egyptian guides, Egyptologists, historians will keep telling you the story about victorious Ramesses II, continuing the fake history. What we have today, unfortunately, in our politics, we have something that we call fake news. Based on fake news, people are becoming the presidents of the countries in the North or South America. Very soon, it will be the case all around the planet, unfortunately. And, as a matter of fact, politicians today, they had the great example from the distant past. I'm not saying this to put the great Egyptian state from the ancient times down, or even today. As a matter of fact, I love Egypt. Here, Egypt. I take groups to Egypt. But what I love more is the scientific truth. Semir Osmanagić from Hattusha. What's most interesting thing in Hattusha is not Hattusha itself, which is really impressive, 8 kilometers city wall. However, the parts of the wall are those huge rocks, and they undoubtedly does not belong to the Hattushan time, or Hittite time, 4,000 or even 5,000 years back. When we see the construction, we are coming to this stone here, this block here. Doesn't look so impressive, but probably this is the most intriguing block in the whole of the place. Why? This is the corner block. We can see it is half radiused, and we can see many corners outside and inside. Now, definitely this is a megalithic style which does not belong to any known civilization in the Near East, in the Middle East, or in the Mesopotamian basin. This is the way how to connect other blocks. So what we see here are the blocks, and every one of them is of different size. So you don't have two same size blocks. The way we are building today is we make a factory and then we produce thousands of millions of blocks. The way they are doing it then during the last megalithic period, they are making all the blocks of different sizes, and then they are making them 4, 5, 6, 8 or 16 corners or 16 sides like we have here. Of course, there are many smaller blocks, and for us it doesn't make sense to have them here like that. Why doesn't it make sense? Because once we make our blocks, put them together, it is the simplest, the easiest way to construct. However, the ancients were much smarter. They had an earthquake-proof construction, because this little rock here acted as a way to relax the whole structure. Going back to, let's say, Incas and pre-Incan times, when the Spanish conqueror came to today's Peru, they were finding structures like this. In most cases, they would totally demolish them, or they were using the lower rows as the foundation for their palaces and their churches. Back in 1960, huge earthquake that hit Peru destroyed most of the Spanish structures, their churches, or their palaces, their big residential villas. What remained intact was pre-Incas architecture, exactly like what we have here. Of course, after thousands and thousands of years of erosion, tectonic movements, volcanic eruptions, and of course, new generations of conquerors who are coming here trying to destroy the city partially, and as we can see today, there is not much left of once beautiful and impressive Hatuši. But still, what we can see here are the remnants of the first and the most developed civilization. So I would say the most impressive things are several gates that we are finding here, like this one, which we can call King's Gate. Then one of the biggest temples at the entrance of